Hey, welcome to Lead, Grow, Live. This week we invited Paul George back. One of the reasons we wanted to have Paul back is because he has agreed to be our Senior Advisor of Personal Development. In Company Growth Advisors and Company Growth Academy, it's very important that we not only develop you professionally, but also personally. And in this episode, you're going to hear some true nuggets. I mean, things that you can take away. One of the biggest things is listen for the parachute story. I can't wait for you to hear it. Here's Paul's episode. Welcome to Lead, Grow, Live, where our goal is to help you lead your people, grow your company, and live your life. Hey, thanks for coming back in. I'm glad to have you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be back.
So a lot of people probably go, why aren't we seeing Paul George again? One of the things that I wanted to talk about and explain to our visitors and viewers is your role as our Senior Advisor of Personal Development and why it's so important for Company Growth Advisors and Company Growth Academy. But I am so glad you agreed to come on and share your wisdom.
Yeah, I don't know if it's wisdom or not. I mean, one of the things that I think you and I align on a lot of things, but for sure it's personal growth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like if we're growing personally in our lives, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, taking care of ourselves, being the best version of ourselves, then that's gonna, cross over in every area of our life.
It does.
Right.
Yep.
Professionally, as well. And so one of the things I'm extremely passionate about is people, helping people to become the best version of themselves so that they could be growing their companies, but at the same time, their personal growth is kind of moving all that forward.
Yeah. And what's sad is when I see business owners jump into business, they're doing it to improve their lives and to have more time with their families and do all that. Unfortunately, the businesses seem to go off like a hook on a golf shot and they're playing catch up, and then they start ignoring the things that they really need to be paying attention to and the reason they got into business in the first place.
I spend a lot of time meeting with people, one-on-one. Mm-hmm. People will call me or set up meetings with me, and it's usually just to talk, personal stuff, growth stuff, life stuff. And they've come to some type of realization or some type of dead end that they've hit where they're like, man, I'm experiencing some real obstacles, and it's usually in their personal life. They've just ignored a lot of those things. It's not they don't think it's important, but they've been so busy running their business or working and taking care of things that the thing that's really most important has taken a back seat.
It's right. It's true.
And then they hit a roadblock, and it's usually kind of sometimes it's like a crash.
Yeah.
They survive the crash, and then they're like, okay, like I need to make some changes. And those are good conversations because I think those are always opportunities to move forward.
Absolutely. And again, if you bring order to the most important part of your world, you can have the energy and ultimately give the attention to your business, and it feeds each other.
Yeah.
So how do you initially work with people that come to you?
It's human. It's very human.
Yeah.
I ask a very deep theological question. How are you?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, exactly right.
Just a very human question. How are you? Where do you want to go? What's going on in your life? Let's look at the big picture and let's get down to sort of the details of it. But let's just stick to your, I always say like we have three parts of us. We're physical beings. We have a body. Mm-hmm. We're physical. We're emotional beings. We have a will. We have a soul. We have emotions, right?
Yeah, sorry.
Thoughts, feelings, and then we have a spirit. We have a soul. So we're spiritual beings. So we have all those things at play. And when one of those areas or multiple of those areas aren't working, the triangle per se of those three things collapses.
Yeah.
So they all have to work simultaneously together. We're never going to be perfect at it.
Sure.
But when we ignore it, we feel the results of it. I mean, we see it kind of unfolding in our life. Something doesn't seem right. Something seems off. Things are out of order. And we begin to kind of experience it, in some way.
You're saying exactly what I've kind of a discovery I had a while back is, so I'd heard this word incongruence. Right. And so I had to look, really at that time, I had to look it up.
Yeah. Dictionary.
And when you look up congruence and incongruency, right, it's like, oh, well, and so to me, that's exactly what you're talking about. And then what you have to do to become more congruent is focus on the things that matter. And that's what you and I both do.
Yeah.
We just do it on business side, and you do it on the personal growth side.
Well, it's all connected because, I mean, we're both in business and we both live life. But, you know, I find when people get busy or they don't take care of things or they're not, that we compartmentalize very easily. So we live in boxes or buckets, and it's easy just to kind of jump from one to the other and say, okay, I'll go to work here. I'll deal with this here. Or I'm going to work on my marriage here, my kids, my health, whatever. But when we compartmentalize is when we forget which boxes we're in, and it just becomes a mess. You know, and I've worked for a lot of people as well. And if I look back at the history of people I've worked with or for, usually a leader who is unhealthy, you know, personally, a mess.
Yeah.
So is their business and the way they kind of lead people. Yeah. And then it ends up kind of just creating more and more chaos, you know?
Yeah. What is the quote? How you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And if you're a mess, man.
100%. I mean, I am still in the process of learning to not be compartmentalized.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about like hyper focused or growth or like, hey, let me focus on my business or let me focus on, you know, my family or let me focus on my spiritual life. I'm not talking about like focus. I'm talking about like everything's connected.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly learning to have everything integrated and connected.
Yeah. That's so good. One of the things that I struggle with my weight. I've lost a bunch of weight and gained a little bit back, but I tend to be this all or nothing kind of person.
Yeah.
Coach me through that.
Right. Well, I think one, it's knowing your personality. Yeah. So your self-awareness is key to any growth. Yeah. So one of the biggest obstacles of growth in any area of our life is when we're not self-aware.
Yeah.
You know, we're like, no, I don't need to grow in that area. And you're like, no, when you become self-aware, you're like, okay, here's my weaknesses. Here's my strengths. Okay. I know what I need to do. Now, how do I begin to kind of navigate forward in that, become a little bit more consistent? Because none of us are perfect. We're not going to have it all together in every area of our life. But if we're constantly self-aware and working on those things, then we're becoming, you know, the person that we're created to be, the best version of ourselves, and trying to be healthy so that we can lead others.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say too, this is like all Jeff's quotes, right?
Right.
No, but we're all weird in our own little way. It's the ones that don't know they're weird that I worry about.
Right. Yeah. Just knowing kind of your weirdness.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, becoming very self-aware, I think, is key to any growth.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like any team, Jeff, right? Like, where are we weak on the team? Are we better at offense or defense?
That's right.
You know, where do we move people around? I mean, there's no perfect company either. There's no perfect team, but a team that's very self-aware is going to move further, faster, and better together than a team that's just clueless and unaware.
Yeah.
Right. So like your self-awareness, maybe about things in your personal life you want to grow in, your weight or being consistent in that is a starting point. Right. And then coming up with a plan, sort of like what you do with how you coach people is, okay, let's establish a plan that's unique for you, your company, your team, and let's kind of move forward.
That's right.
In that.
And I will tell you that leaders who are less self-aware, it's really hard to lead other people, you know, because you just don't have it in you, or you need to develop a little bit more, which is why I'm so glad we're joining forces and you're going to be the senior advisor of personal development, because it's so critical. So I'm really excited about what we have going on.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, like we're both passionate about helping people become, you know, to grow in their personal lives because it's connected to their business
100%
to everything that they do. And I don't know a better way to start than helping people in that area of their life. Right. So it's not, even for people acknowledging, oh, something's wrong with me, so I need to meet with Jeff and Paul or whatever. No, it's saying, how can I grow? How can I be better? What areas of my life are kind of holding me back, or can I thrive in even more so? You know, knowing that I always approach it as like, look, I don't have it all together too. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah, sure.
And grow together.
Yeah. And you know, our mantra at Company Growth Academy is as people grow, companies grow. So it's not just the leader or the leadership team. It's these emerging leaders that we've identified and the team members who have opportunities. They have a path to grow professionally and personally. And so it's about helping everyone develop so everybody moves forward. One
of the things I realized as well, and this is a friction point for a lot of people, is, okay, what happens once I become self-aware? Then there becomes more of the action or the execution of things.
That's right.
And that's probably the next really hard part.
Roadblock, yeah.
Yeah, because some people have a hard time or refuse to kind of make some hard decisions in their personal life, right?
Yeah.
And those hard decisions could keep them from moving forward and growing. And then so that they jump into the box that's easy for them. So some people are really good at business or making money, but their personal life's a wreck because they can do that really well.
Yeah.
Boss people around, kind of move it all.
Delegate what needs to be done. But yeah. No, and that's why we're going to make a good pair and partner up for people. So what have you been doing since the last time you came on? Most of us know that I Finally Get It. We've kind of enveloped I Finally Get It into this new podcast. But what's been going on since then?
You know, I've been busy, just as you have. I have my own consulting company, The Art of Living. Mm-hmm. So travel, speak a lot of places on different topics, and then consult with small organizations. And so that's what I've been doing. I'm kind of home for a while for the holidays, so it's nice.
Yeah, it's so nice.
You know,
so
refresh, get focused, kind of do my, I usually this time of year, I kind of try to do a reset mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and then start to kind of set some goals for the next year. But I never want to do those when I'm tired. You know, just kind of anxious or frustrated. So I have to give myself permission to reset, to clear my mind, evaluate how this year went, and then look at sort of the entirety of my life and what I want it to look like for the next year.
Yeah.
So I kind of lay that out, and look, I don't hit all my goals. So like, but I always say if I don't write it down or have something to move forward towards it, I might not do anything.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So I look at my life as a whole, from everything from like the business side and my personal side and life, and then just lay it all out.
That is so important. And it's so good that you do that personally and you're disciplined enough to do it personally. The funny thing is I do the exact same thing with companies. Right. We have quarterly reviews. We do an annual planning session for the next year. And if you don't write it down, and if you don't, tell the company, then you're off track immediately. Right. And so I love that you do that. You help others with that as well, right?
Yeah, I do a lot of strategic planning, goal setting, working with teams, helping companies have the right team in place. Because as you know, if you have the leader that's healthy and then they have a healthy team, then, oh my gosh, like that's a game changer.
100%.
Like by far. I mean, as that happens and moves, everything else moves.
That's right.
And a couple of organizations I'm working with right now, that is the friction point. They just don't have all the right people on the leadership team, or on their executive team or C-suite team or however they're structuring. And so there's a little bit of tension there right now. And that's good. It's good tension, because when it's there, it's like, okay, like, where do we go from here? How do we solve that? But having the right people in place,
100% right. But and we also experience where you might have divided attention, right? So you're the owner of the company, but you also take care of the sales. You got somebody in marketing over here, but then you're doing operations, and
right.
They're divided and they can't bring in. How do you help people realize that, hey, look, it's okay to be in a couple different positions, but you're spreading yourself way too thin by trying to do everything.
Right. And at some point,
something breaks.
If you're trying to grow, then it's definitely going to break.
Yeah.
Particularly for entrepreneurs who start their company. At some point when they started, they played every role.
Absolutely.
They sat in every seat.
That's right.
So they kind of know it. Now, are they good at all those? No, but they had to do them.
Yep.
So as they delegate out and grow that team, they might be holding on to certain areas of need. I just follow a rule of thumb is, you have to hold on to those areas. Don't hire till you find the right person.
Yeah. No doubt about it.
So a lot of times people will hire because they're at a breaking point, but they just don't find the right person.
Yeah. And they know it's not the right person. So they don't, like you said just a few seconds ago, they don't give everything up. They hold their sweethearts near and dear.
Yeah.
Right. And so they take care of it. So then you have boundary issues and then trust issues because you're not letting go and you're not letting them, take charge.
Yeah. And a lot of that, and let's circle back to on the personal side. Yeah. That's where the great conversations come up. Like, why are you dealing with control?
Yeah.
Like, why are you holding on to this? Why are you holding these things very close? Like, what are you attached to? Let's talk through those. So maybe bringing up some things in that person's sort of personal life that they're not connecting the dots on, right?
Yeah.
There's certain fears or anxieties that's coming into play. Maybe there's some financial stress, some things that are connected that they didn't even realize, that are some aha moments for them personally.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So I feel like so far we've talked about leadership and making sure that you have congruence between your life and your business. When you work with somebody, how do you help their companies grow? Because you're kind of starting with the personal development, personal growth. What impact do you see on company growth?
Well, I mean, that's part of, our partnership and working together, your experience on moving people from, an owner to an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And that growth is extremely, important for them to move forward. Where I usually focus my attention is on the leader and helping them sort of identify for themselves how they want to grow. Let's get out of compartments and let's just talk about everything.
Yeah.
Okay. And then let's look at your company. And then from there, let's establish the right team. I know for sure that if you can do those two things, your company is going to grow. Okay.
No doubt about it.
But those are probably the hardest things because usually a business owner just wants to move fast.
Yeah.
And they want to grow, they just want to go.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's so many different types of growth. There's revenue, profitability, capacity. What you and I talk about is personal growth, and with that comes growth in the organization. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Some of the when I look back on some of the best leaders I've worked with, best companies, owners, entrepreneurs, have been people who have really worked on their personal life.
Yeah.
Emotionally, spiritually, physically, integrated that. But the next part that they figured out is that their company or their business has a mission to it.
Yeah, sure.
It has a purpose that's bigger than them. Yes, do they make money? Yes, do they have retirement goals? But they have figured out that going to work has a personal mission.
Absolutely.
And that really is a game changer because that mission is about loving the people they work with, transforming the lives of their employees, and then that transforms into the mission of the companies that they serve or whatever industry that they're in.
Yeah.
So that sense of purpose and mission, being more about like money and finances,
no doubt about it.
Yep. that has been the game changer for people when they have really connected there on their personal life. Because at the end of the day is they know that they're going to retire, they're going to age out, they're going to sell, and they want to have a sense of legacy and purpose. And when they find that, gosh,
it really is. You know, one of the most interesting things I heard is I follow a guy named Donald Miller with Business Made Simple, and he interviewed the CEO of OtterBox, the founder and CEO of OtterBox. And of course, OtterBox has done pretty well, right? Yeah. Started with cases for phones, and they're a $6.5 billion a year company. So he the owner, basically buys companies and he develops the CEOs of these companies. And he says, without determining your life plan and understanding your personal purpose, I can't hire somebody with a different, a malaligned personal purpose to the purpose of the business itself.
Amen.
And so he does that, and it's one of the most important things, but it's a key to success. So basically, if your life purpose doesn't align with the purpose of the company, then it's not going to be the happy marriage it should be.
Yeah. No, I mean, one of the things that I do with people personally is, help them develop their personal mission statement.
Yeah.
Let's craft that.
That's
and then
great.
let's look at your business. Okay, if those two things aren't connected, then there's a real friction point, right? You're going to have this personal mission and you get to work and you're not going to be happy because your corporate mission is different than your personal mission.
That's right.
And they got to connect. This is why, like with your company, is like you have a passion and a mission to help people, to help people grow personally and professionally. And, that sense of, but you're like that in your personal life.
Yeah.
If I'm having coffee with you one-on-one, you're just automatically you're saying, how you doing? What's going on? Like, like the conversation just feels like your passion is helping me move forward. And I think it's just integrated into your DNA.
Yeah. Well, likewise for you.
Well, right. Like it practice. Like you just, it's not forced practice, but it's really, you really believe it.
Oh yeah. 100%.
In your heart.
100%.
And I find that for people in work, when they can like transform that into work, that's when they go to work and they're happy. Yeah. They have a sense of real, like, forward thinking, longevity, like transforming people's lives, really a sense of mission in their work. That's when it becomes very purpose-filled.
As the show is called, Lead, Grow, Live, lead your people, grow your company, live your life. It really is. I find that most business owners that get stuck in the business owner workday, they want the entrepreneur lifestyle, right? But they get stuck and it's really hard to get out. I want to kind of talk with you about living your best life. What, of course, it's all personal and independent, but what is really living look like for you?
Gosh, man, that's a book, huh?
Oh, it is a book for sure. Yeah, but
multiple volumes.
We're put on this earth for a reason. You know what I mean? And it's not just to go south in a business. Yeah.
I can look at that question both ways. In a sense of when am I not living my best life? And then when am I? And I can kind of see the two, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Because to say like every day I wake up and I live a perfect life every day and I get it all right. Like that's,
that's nobody does that.
Now am I trying to have a mission?
Yeah.
Do I know the end goal?
Yeah.
Yes. Of course.
Yeah.
I worked hard to bring clarity in my life to that, to wake up with a sense of, my personal mission statement is very simple. I always say it's got to be memorable and repeatable.
Correct.
So if it's too long, you've probably got too much. You'll never do it. So for me, it's love God. Like my faith, like gives me a sense of purpose, the longevity, right? To love God, serve others. So how am I doing that today? Am I serving people well, and die with no regrets.
So beautiful.
So like, what are things in my life that I want to accomplish that if I don't, I'll regret? Or if I do something wrong, would I regret not going back and saying, I'm sorry, or redoing that or something like that? So I look at that and say, how am I doing each day on that? Some days I do well, some days I don't. But I know if I'm living my mission, then I'm living with a sense of purpose and living, the life that I'm created to live. Yeah. I'm not just kind of floundering.
Yeah.
About.
So this time of year, like when you're sort of evaluating the past year, and do you go into that exercise, if you will, with that framework?
Yeah.
Oh man, I love it.
Yeah. Like, so I'll just set my goals through that lens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, let me look at, my spiritual life, my emotional life, my family, my time, my work, and just like lay it all out through the lens of my mission, you know?
Yep.
And evaluate what areas am I stuck? Where am I, you know, not seeing clear? And then, you know, I always throw out some stretch goals, you know, what is going to stretch me mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally. And I've had goals that I've punted for 10 years. You know, they just kind of circle back.
Yeah, correct.
You know, like you'll have a book idea.
Yeah,
like,
correct. You just put it in a parking lot for a little while.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, can we get that 1975 Chevrolet out of the parking lot?
That's right.
Get it going. So to not like shame yourself when you're not hitting those benchmarks, but just say, you know, like I can just move that to next month or next year. You know, like
yeah, sure.
We can't accomplish everything. Yeah. You know, some things we have to trust and surrender.
Yeah.
And like, okay, Lord, like if you want those things to happen in my life, like I have to have a sense of letting go of control.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why the parking lot concept is so valuable, because it's not like you're, you know, letting it fall through the cracks. You set it aside,
right?
Then you go back. But I love the word surrender, because you can't. Do you find that people try to do everything and they get frustrated because they can't get it all done? I mean,
well, one of the things that I think is a common trait of business owners or entrepreneurs is a sense of control.
Oh yeah.
And that can be a good thing.
Yeah,
okay. Like I know what I want. I know how to get it done. This is my idea, whatever the case may be. Yep. And that sense of control is what really launched their company from the ground up.
Yeah.
But that control also keeps them, you know, anxious, keeps them kind of holding on from like that next level of growth.
Yeah.
They're control freaks, but at the same time, it's that same thing that keeps it on track. So there's this real friction point that I find with business owners of that sense of control. I mean, I struggle with that with my own life. I think everyone kind of struggles with a sense of control in some areas of their life, but that idea of surrendering that control, there's a lot of freedom in that, but that's hard. That's difficult. You know,
for our personality types. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I was just having a one-on-one conversation with someone I meet with regularly, and that keeps coming back up. How are you doing with control? You know, well, you know, I control my calendar at work and control this, and but then I see it kind of affecting the way I want to control things at home, and I really kind of am identifying areas where I just need to let go.
Yeah.
You know. And so things like that's
powerful, man.
You know?
It really is. It really is. You also mentioned stretch. So you have these stretch goals, and that's where growth comes from. It is the stretching yourself and doing something that you either think you can do, but you haven't proved it yet, but stretching just outside of your comfort zone. A lot of us stick in that comfort zone and just stay there.
Yeah, and I'm one of them.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
And here's what keeps me from stretching in other areas is like there are certain areas of our life, all of us who are listening, where we're very comfortable with being stretched because we're good at that.
Yeah, we're good at it, or confident whatever.
In that area. So you can name the area, but
That's right.
But then there's some areas where like, I'm not very confident in that area.
Yeah.
I don't know about being stretched, so I'm just going to kind of close that chapter or just be okay. It's sort of, you know, I wouldn't say mediocre, but maybe mediocre in that area, right?
Yeah. Or not do something and you need to.
You need to.
Like one of the biggest for business owners is video, right?
Right.
But they won't do it. And look, I'm telling you, I put it off for years.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's just an
as
example.
You're talking, I'm thinking about things that I'm like on the edge of the cliff. I'm like, don't want to jump, right?
Yeah.
So like, that's a real cool conversation I think we can have. But one of the greatest lessons I actually learned was from a little Franciscan priest who gave a talk. Okay. And he a little bitty one. No, he was a little from France, and he writes a bunch of these little spiritual books. Father Jacques Philippe. Okay, and he gave a talk in French, and he had a little nun interpreting for him. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a boring talk because, like, how do you listen to an interpreter and you're kind of back and forth? And he would just say these one-liners, and it was just like, just lasers.
Wow.
And he gave this analogy, and he said this, like, he is in the spiritual life, many of us, or all of us basically, he said, have a backpack on with a parachute. He says, most of us never know what it's like to jump and for the parachute to open up.
Yeah. Yeah.
He says, but we all have a parachute. He says, God's grace is, we'll never know what it's like if we don't jump. And the air fills that parachute up. And I began to think, man, there are so many times in my life where I know I need to jump, but I'm just afraid.
Yeah, correct.
Afraid of, will air open up the parachute?
Yeah.
But then I think I'll never know what it's like to parachute if I don't.
Yeah.
So I find a lot of times in my own life, and when I'm coaching people, I'm just coaching myself, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
So I'm not.
Or it's something that you have experienced, so you're an expert at it,
right?
So
just looking at areas in my life, I'm like, okay, I'm afraid to jump, or something's keeping me back from jumping. But yet, if I do, the air will open up that parachute, and I'll experience a new freedom in maybe a stretched area of my life that I was so afraid to grow in.
That's beautiful, man. That's amazing.
I see it all the time. Like maybe people are afraid in their personal life to go to counseling.
Correct.
Or work on their marriage. And then they do it. And man, it catapults them like just air. Right? Or they make this risk that they know they've been needing to make with restructuring their company or making an investment. And then all of a sudden it's like just this air breathing into this parachute, and it's a new.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I actually think we can end on that one because it's just powerful. We build these show notes in there, and I'm going to list that. And I love the parachute story.
Right.
But if somebody wanted to hear more of these stories, I'll list where they can get in touch with you. But talk to us about how that process might look if they reach out.
I'll go in and give keynote talks to companies or nonprofits or churches, or do some coaching or consulting. But, I always find if someone's listening and they're intrigued by something, is sit down and just kind of evaluate where you are. Begin with self-awareness. What do you need? Do you need some real mentoring personally, some coaching? How's it affecting your business or your personal life? And then the next step is reach out to get help, not help in something's wrong with me, help in you and I need other people to help us grow. If I am the center of my growth, I'm in trouble.
Yeah. Because it's just going to go one way.
It's just going to go one way, and I'm going to have one perspective.
Yeah,
right. So right. If I don't have mentoring and coaching and leadership, my own life, even as my own business owner, right?
Yeah.
Then I'm just stuck. So I'm constantly reaching out to people, having them coach me, yada, yada, so that I can move forward. I got some things that I need to jump and let the parachute open up. I know that. So who's going to I always say, you need someone to be on the cliff with you that's convincing you to jump.
Yeah. Not pushing you.
Not pushing you, but say,
but
okay,
you
jump.
can do this.
Or let's say, let's jump together.
Yeah.
I'll
that's
jump with
huge.
you.
And that's the essence of a coach, is what I think.
Then I always find, I don't want to skydive. It's not really a goal of mine. Some people do. My kids have. But, when you skydive the first time, you have to tandem jump.
Yeah, sure.
You can't go by yourself.
Yep.
Legally, I guess that's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you actually...
Yeah, you actually physically can't, your first time or whatever. And I just think that that's a huge lesson on life.
It really is.
Tandem jumping. Not only if you're married in your marriage, that's sort of analogy, but in friendship and in business, and that idea of growing.
Yep.
Doing it alone is not.
Well, and spiritually, you're never alone.
Yeah. That's right. You're never alone spiritually.
Yeah.
But we can often, particularly as leaders, I find that a lot of leaders can tend to isolate themselves.
Yeah.
They feel alone in their company, or they feel like no one understands, or they have to pay the bills and, all these things. But
they don't want to scare everybody else. It's one of the loneliest things, and very few people admit that and open up to that.
Yeah. And making the journey alone is not a healthy way to survive. So
Good stuff, man. Thanks for coming back.
Oh, of course. Yeah, anytime. Let's keep the conversation going.
Yeah, well, the cool thing is we'll be co-hosting from time to time.
Sure.
With other guests and business owners and entrepreneurs.
Yep.
And so I'm excited about that as well.
Yeah, great.
All right, brother.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks again.